Hi, this is Mike from the Fayetteville Free Library. This will be the 3D printer training video for the new FlashForge printers. The FlashForge printers that you can choose from now will be the smaller FlashForge Finder series and the larger FlashForge Guider 2. The FlashForge Finder has a build volume of 140 by 140 by 140 millimeters, which is 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. The layer resolution can be anywhere from 50 to 400 microns, and the nozzle diameter is 0.4 millimeters. It has one extruder and can run PLA, Eco ETG, Eco PLA wood, Eco TPU, and anything else that does not require a heated build platform. The printer still maintains the same kind of input for files, where we are looking for a .stl or a .obj file. It does require a use of a different program than what we had been used to at the library. It uses a flash print software that we will get into shortly. Let's talk quickly about the Guider 2, which is our larger machine. The Guider 2 is a machine that can print an area of 280 millimeter by 250 millimeter by 300 millimeter. So that's in inches, that's 11 by 9.8 by 11.8. The layer resolution can get as fine as 100 microns and as coarse as 400 microns. It can support ABS prints, PLA prints, PVA prints. It does have a heated build platform. The nozzle diameter is also 0.4 millimeters. Like its smaller counterpart, the Flash Finder, the FlashForge Guider 2 uses a flash print software to send STL or OBJ files from the desktop. As of this recording, we do use PLA plastic, and for that reason we do not require that the print beds are heated in any manner. So while that's not an option on the FlashForge Finder, which is the red one, the FlashForge Guider 2, the larger one, that does not need the heated build platform to be activated. We do still have blue painter's tape down for both models, and we do strongly suggest RAFTS when printing. We find that using the blue painter's tape and RAFTS make it for an easily removable part and more consistent, less warping type of print. So when you have your print file in mind and you come to the library to print, you'll want to choose, well, which machine is best suited for my needs. If it's something that's going to be under the size of a 5 by 5.5 inch cube, then the Finder, the red one, can easily and quickly print for you. If it's anything larger than that, then you'll want to choose the FlashForge Guider. Same file type, but it will allow you to print on something larger like this Eiffel Tower print. And that was all in one piece. Both machines do have an assisted leveling system that we will get into more when we go and send a print. This shouldn't require any action by you, the user, but you will notice that it does have a little mechanism that comes down to auto or assist the leveling process. Once you've chosen which printer you'll use, sit to the machine just behind the printer that you plan to print to. We'll be printing with the FlashForge Guider. Because both printers use an STL or OBJ file type, we can still use Thingiverse, we could use Tinkercad, SketchUp, SolidWorks, most 3D CAD programs, anything that outputs an STL or OBJ file. We also have a shortcut on the desktop here for downloads. If I take and look for my print that I will want, I could find it in the list. A lot of times we'll say click on the date modified so that you can sort the list by newest first. I'll just pick this one here. We'll double click, it will open up Flash Print for you. If you want to open Flash Print up without a file, we're going to be using this icon, Flash Print. Okay, let's go into a full screen mode here so we can see everything. Very similar to the old software we used to have in the Fab Lab. If you're new to 3D printing, then we'll go over each icon here. Off to your left, you still have a view, move, rotate, scale, and a new tool that's called cut. These are all activated by using the left mouse button. View will change the viewpoint that we are looking at our model. I can use the sides of this perimeter box to select where I'd like to view my part from. I can also go to these quick kind of settings. I can go to the top view, bottom view, right view, so on. If I want to just free fly around the part, I do use the right mouse button. Hold that down and then drag your mouse around and we can fly around our part. Zooming in is still the scroll wheel on your mouse, but it now follows your mouse pointer. So wherever the mouse pointer is, it will zoom in to that location. And then if you want to drag the window, that is using the scroll wheel as a button. Pressing it down and dragging the mouse will give you that kind of motion. Now let's check out move. We click on move, make sure that our part is selected, click again on our move button. We can move it in X, Y, and Z. You'll also see there's still an on platform button. There's also a center and reset. So now I can move anywhere on that build plate. You can see that anytime that there's a collision with the perimeter of the build area, a red or a shaded red field pops up to let you know which field it's intersecting with, or both. Let's take a look at the rotate tool. I strongly suggest that you use it in this mode here and not selecting and dragging around here. The reason being is that if you could keep a part kind of squared up in one of the axes, an X or Y or Z, then try to keep it that way. One new feature on here is a surface to platform button. By check marking this, any side of a part that has a face, you can double click it and it will place that as the surface to platform kind of orientation. So on our squirrel part here, if I want the squirrel to be printed with the bottom on the bottom, I'll rotate over to the side, making sure surface to platform is selected. I can double click the bottom of the model and it'll figure out how to orient that part to make sure that that is placed on the bottom. You could still use plus or minus 90 degrees in all axes, or just type in your own, but again, be careful once you get off of being perfectly square. Scale tool is similar to before, where we have our X, Y, and Z in millimeters. You could see the percentages here as well. Uniform scaling most likely will be checked because you don't want to start to stretch out something without changing all of the dimensions at the same time. And the maximum button is there as well. So you can see now that we went to a maximum size. Well, one portion of our object is sticking outside the printable volume. That's just because we don't have this centered on the build platform. If we go to the move command, select our object, our field pops up here and click center. Now we've moved that so we don't have anything interfering again. Scale this down a little bit. Now let's talk about the cut option. So when parts come in and they are too large for us to print all in one time, but you want to maintain that overall size when after being printed, what you can do is use the cut button. The cut button allows you to draw with a mouse, or you could choose a plane to slice your model in our printing slicer software. This is new. If I draw a line, what I can do now is let go, and a plane has been created that can cut the model into those sections. If I click Start Cut, we can separate those two pieces now and print those. You'll see that it finishes off the STL so that we don't have an open void there. It'll be a nice surface that you can glue parts to. Boy, poor squirrel. Let's reset that. Undo button. Let's bring this down into a smaller size so we could do a cut, but using one of the planes. Once you place a plane, it'll show where it will slice, and you can adjust that in the position. And we could slide that or click on that value and place it wherever. Click Start Cut, and again, there's our two pieces. Okay, our poor squirrel's back together. We'll want to make sure that we switch back to our view icon when we are all set with positioning and modifying our STL. If I click on the model, it'll start to try to do a cut plane. We want to go to view, so we can move our part around. Let's bring this down, the scale back down. If you wanted to load more files so that you could populate this platform with more parts, you could click the load button at the top, and that will load the, well, in this case, the documents folder. Navigate to wherever you have your parts saved, most likely on a flash drive. If your part needs supports, there is a support function that's built in that auto-generates supports for you. Clicking on supports and then clicking auto supports will create a support structure for that part. If you want to go into support options, you could change the overhang threshold. You could change if it's tree-like or linear. We'll switch this to linear. Auto supports. So that would be a linear support structure. And you can notice right now that I can also place my own support structures. As long as I'm in supports, if I move my mouse around, any overhanging feature will have a support made just by clicking. So I just dropped that support for his tail. The software itself doesn't think that this needs a support. It really doesn't. But you can see how quickly and easily it is to just add your own supports. Let's say I wanted to support the squirrel's nose a little more. I could click and drop one there. You could delete supports by using the delete button off to the left and then selecting the supports you'd like to delete. My recommendation is that you go to use auto supports, take a look at how that might look, and if you feel like they're too much, then go ahead and start to delete from there. I think auto supports gives you a nice framework to start with, and sometimes you could trim away some that as you get more accustomed to printing, you'll find where you need prints or supports and where you don't need supports. Once those supports are set, click the back button. It will ask you to save supports file and say yes. Don't worry about where this is going, just click save. Now let's get into the print screen button. By default, we have the print when slice done off, and that's because we do want to have everybody see the preview and then acknowledge and then click print. The machine type is going to be set up for you. The material type is going to be PLA. Supports are enabled because we've checkmarked it. We've added auto supports. I'm going to say that we disable that, and RAFTS should always be enabled. So RAFTS should always be enabled. At this point here, you get to choose your resolution. Hyper being the finest layer resolution, and then low being the coarsest. Of course, the lower resolution will print faster and hyper will print much slower. Wall and brim. A wall creates a wall around the model, and then the brim, this is to help with the outline of the model's bottom layer. It helps anchor the edges of the model to the plate to avoid any kind of warping. So by keeping a raft on, we shouldn't need these. If you feel that you are a more advanced user, you can get into some more options. We've set these up. We feel that these are good configurations, so we would recommend that you just stick with this smaller option screen here. Once you're all set, so PLA supports, in this case we're disabling them, RAFTS always enabled. Standard resolution, we're going to click OK. We moved our part off the platform. Do we want to continue slicing? No, we're going to fix that. So let's go back out of here to the on platform button. There we go. Our squirrel has moved up now. Let's click print. Double check all these settings. PLA supports will disable. RAFTS enabled. Resolution standard. Click OK. When this screen pops up, there's no need for you to do anything other than click the save button. Give it a second to slice our part, and now the screen becomes your preview. So I could pull down through on the left hand side, I could pull through the layers that make up our squirrel. See the interior structure, the infill. We can also see that our preview has an estimate of 1 hour, 8 minutes. Material is going to be in meters, which we will then later just weigh the part, and it's 5 cents per gram. Once it looks good, we'll bring the entire part of our model back. Once it looks good, we'll click print in the upper right corner. This connect to machine window will pop up. We have connect mode, it's USB driven, Flash Forge Guider 2, click connect. We sometimes will get an error, that's okay. Click on print one more time, and we're good. At the bottom, you'll start to see a machine status icon, and it says that it's printing. It's got to get an extruder to 225 degrees Celsius. The platform's just going to 30, which is fine. And we have a pause button and a stop or abort button. On the machine, we can see that our squirrel has been sent over here. We have a touch screen now that we can use. Stop, pause is on there. We have 1 hour, 8 minutes projected. The platform is moving up into position. Once it gets into position, then the plastic begins to come out. You'll want to stick around for the first 5-10 minutes or so of your print. Make sure to fill out a print pickup form before you leave. This concludes the 3D printer training for the new Flash Forge models at the Fayetteville Free Library. Please be sure to take the quiz following this video.